colleagues. Thanks for being here in this presentation. I'm really very happy to be. It's my first time at your university center. I had the chance to visit today also with my colleagues, and really I would say that you all are lucky to work together in such a beautiful center. So congratulations for what you have done, you have achieved, and for the beautiful work you are doing. And the reason we are here is that we have already established a collaboration with ICN2, my center in Barcelona. So Catalan Institute of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology and WIN. We have a nice program to work together. And indeed, my colleagues who are here, Dr. Ruslan Alvarez and Dr. Mariana Rossetti, together with colleagues Mala and Professor Mala and also Matt, who are executing a nice project together. So I wish that we'll strengthen further our collaboration, and this is why we are also together this week in your beautiful city and your center. So I'll show you what we are doing in Barcelona in relation to the development of devices. We call these sustainable devices platforms because these are based on sustainable materials and also sustainable technologies for different applications in area of their use as point-of-care devices for diagnostics. And when I say diagnostic, I mean not only health-related diagnostics, but also environmental monitoring and other applications. So this is our center. You see here different logos because we are part of different entities. Barcelona Institute of Science and Technology, network of research centers of Catalonia. We are funded by regional government, Spanish government, and we are situated at campus of Autonomous University of Barcelona. I wish you will visit our center as your colleagues also did. This is where we are. So this is a beautiful center, beautiful area. It's called also Bella Terra, Bea Terra, so Latin language. So this is a campus of UAB. You can see here different centers. Barcelona city is behind this mountain. So this is our center, this green one. We have also very near here Material Center, Advanced Material Center, Microelectronics. We have Synchrotron. And as I said, this is the campus of UAB with a lot of researchers, around 7,750 scientists working in the area of micro nanotechnologies. So with different interests, different applications, and a lot of synergies and collaborations coming around. Let me now show you what we are doing in Barcelona in our group in biosensors. So after some introduction, I'll show you some examples of the devices we're building with keeping in mind always this sustainability and efficiency and for different interests, different applications. So why we need this kind of devices that I'm going to show you here. So to be used as point of care diagnostic devices for such kind of applications. So, and for that, I wanted first to say something about biosensors. So biosensors that can be used as point of care for health, as I said, but also environmental monitoring are nowadays everywhere, not only as clinical devices that we all know, but also they are spread in a lot of other applications, from wearables to integration in smartphones. Smart TVs even are willing to integrate sensors, food plant, smart houses, smart washing machine, even environmental control, but also smart cities in the future are willing to integrate sensors because this is very, very important to have smart cities. So without sensors, you cannot take any decision. So using right sensors and biosensors is really very, very important. So, and as an example, I wanted to show, to remind the case of COVID with a lot of impact. We all have been living during this time, these pandemics, and we know how important have been the diagnostic tools for such kind of situations. And this is why the kind of sensors we are using are related to massive production of sensors. So this is why I'm saying it's very, very important to have sustainable devices, because you need to go with efficient, cost-efficient devices. Otherwise, you cannot send these devices to the end users. So during this time, our group has been working. So our laboratories during COVID has been working. We have been involved in several projects related to COVID. And this is a review showing what happened, because during the COVID time, we all remember that there were a lot of course, activities in the area of biosensors since decades, but no biosensor was ready to be used. And we tried to analyze the situation to see what happened, why such kind of devices reported nice publications also, but no biosensors was able. And during that time, we had the PCR possibility to work with for the detection, for diagnostics, but not simple to use devices to solve fast and efficiently the problems. And one of the key issues we raised is that the collaboration between the industry and the academia was missing. And this is very, very important. If you want to bring your technologies to the market, it's very important since the very beginning to increase the TRLs together and go up to, from, of course, business and science, increasing the TRL up to commercialization and scaling up, of course, after having the state of the art and proving the concept. If you want to spin out a company and bring some technology to the market, the collaboration with business is very, very important. So again, this area of biosensors is very interesting, very multidisciplinary, and I know many of you here probably work in these technologies. I put here the biosensor of glucose, which is well known because it can be in any pharmacy in the world, just to show that the important parts of the biosensor is not only this device that is used to measure, but this tiny device, disposable device, is quite important, because here is where we have the receptor and transducer. So it means that in case of glucose, for example, we have a glucose oxidase, but we can have a device for protein detection, and we need, for example, to have antibodies, or we can have a device for as a genosensor to detect the DNA, and we can put here receptors, for example, DNA complementary with the DNA we want to detect. Just to show that these instruments, these devices are very complex, and you can have different kind of sensors for different applications, different transducing schemes, not only electrical but also optical, mass transducing schemes, etc. And you get the result after this recognition between the receptor and the analyte you want to detect. So these devices nowadays may be of different configurations, even wearables, but also for different applications, implanted devices, also in vivo formats, etc. And of course, with emerging of nanotechnology, these devices are nowadays much more improved. New devices have emerged thanks to the use of nanomaterials. And you can have more information also in this report, small review I wrote in Nature Nanotechnology. So no need to say to this audience the importance of nanomaterials, just very fast. We are working in different kinds of nanomaterials. We work a lot with metallic nanoparticles, quantum dots, but also we have a lot of interest in graphene. And of course, these nanomaterials work together very nicely, not only because of the size similarities from 1 to 100 nanometer with, for example, glucose, protein, DNA, or viruses, but also thanks to the properties of nanomaterials. As I mentioned, either electrical or optical, we are trying to make these building blocks work together and get advantages of the different properties for different kind of devices. Usually, we are working mostly on nanomaterials, taking advantages of electrical properties, but also optical properties. I will explain you in some examples. indeed, we want these devices, according also to World Health Organization, it was requested that the point-of-care devices like biosensors should be reassured. And here is a list of different requisites they should fulfill, from real-time connectivity, robust, equipment-free, and delivered. It doesn't mean that any sensor you are developing should fulfill all the requisites, but it's very important to keep this in mind if you want devices to be used as point of care. So the need for this kind of devices is huge. Only in the United States, for example, you see here work with different kinds of materials, mostly sustainable materials, including paper. Nitrocellulose is very interesting. You know, nitrocellulose is a low-cost, abundant material, easy to manufacture. Also, very nicely, you can have microfluidics because due to the capillary forces, the liquids can run very easily. So you have a kind of zero-energy device. But also, we can integrate into the paper different kind of nanomaterials. I'll show you examples, converting a piece of paper to a plasmonic paper or electrocatalytic paper, etc., etc. And of course, we have a lot of interest in connection, not only to use these devices with naked eye, but also connection with smartphone and portable readers. So our idea in these developments and sustainable technologies is to develop, we call this ubiquitous fabrication of nanobiosensors. So of course, clean rooms, facilities are very important for such kind of devices, but why not to use also simple devices? So no need for clean room, like for example, printers or stampers, stamping technologies. So it means instead of for example, in case of pandemics, instead of delivering the devices all over the world in case of emergencies, why not to have the fabrication tools, simple fabrication tools everywhere? So in case of emergencies, you can very fast produce in situ your devices and solve problems. So this is what we want with this kind of devices. So to achieve also the so-called democratization of diagnostics. So that can be achieved with such kind of developments, using innovative nanomaterials that can in situ be produced and of course be low cost with portable technologies, being at the same time efficient and equipment free sometimes for such kind of applications. So this is also a summary of what our group is doing. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of interest in nanomaterials, taking advantages for different kind of devices and different areas. And based on these developments, we have also spin out two spin-off companies, PaperDrop, that is focused on paper-based sensors for clinical diagnostics, and Graphenica Lab with patterning of graphene to develop electronic devices, including sensors for different applications. So again, here, nanomaterials is our interest, paper-based sensors, printing technologies, as you can see also here, printing devices using inkjet printing or stamping. And as I said, the full integration of point-of-care devices connecting with smartphones, wearables, and wireless readout. So this is what we are doing in our group. Let me show you some devices that are built based on such philosophy, let's say, optical devices first, and then electrical devices that are based on different technologies. So starting with optical devices, so this is also a very broad technology. You know, measuring the light can be done in different ways, and these are known as colorimetric, fluorescent, electrochromic, bioluminescent. We have been working in different technologies. I'll show you some examples. Starting with paper-based sensors. So this is simple. Simple is the best. And indeed, all the chemists have been working with pH sensors. So why not to have the same very simple device that just dip in the sample, and based on the change of the color, you can have like a yes or no for something that you are interested, or even have some quantitative device for some applications. So this is very well-known technology since many years. And you see here, we wrote this review since many years, almost 13 years. It is known as dipstick or LFA micropad with different kind of technologies, not only electrical, but also optical. So this is what we are trying to do, as I said, based on the same principle, for example, the same easy-to-use philosophy as pH paper. So the first example is related to COVID, like COVID test, like lateral flow. And here is how it works. So probably some of you know this. This is a lateral flow, conventional one, using nanoparticles. Antibodies are connected here, and we have paper of different porosity called sample pad, conjugation pad, detection pad, and absorbent pad. So there is a video here showing how this device works. So you can see here, once you introduce the sample, the paper, thanks to the nitrocellulose fibers, is serving as a filter. So once you introduce the sample, for example, whole blood, the big particles like red blood cells are staying on top of this net of fibers. And the small parts like proteins, for example, we want to detect, or viruses are going through. We may add some buffer, and afterwards you'll see what happened. So the sample, the analyte we want to detect, is going to interact with antibodies, so connected with these gold nanoparticles, for example, or it may be here a virus that is recognized, and afterward running the liquid going to the detection and control line. So doing the same as ELISA is doing, but everything now is occurring in a piece of paper. So it's very easy. In a couple of minutes, you'll have these responses with constant red color coming from plasmonics of gold nanoparticles. That is the control line, and the detection line with intensities that change according to the concentration. So it's very easy. So you get the response. You may have a yes or no if you are infected, or even you can have a quantity if you want to know a little bit more. So this is what lateral flow is doing. But of course, there are a lot of pros and cons. As I mentioned, low cost, easy to use, of course, fast and naked eye detection. But there are issues related to the fact that it's mostly qualitative. Limit of detection also is sometimes high, and also multiplexing is difficult. So we are trying to address several issues, trying to improve this technology using different kinds of nanomaterials, playing, for example, with geometry of the lateral flow, with using different kinds of bioreceptors, labels, readout, and other strategies. So I'll show you some examples based on these. The first example is with the use of graphene. So we have interesting graphene that has very interesting optical properties also, in addition to electronic properties. So in this review, we have discussed a lot about the possibilities offered by graphene in both optical and electrical sensors. So I'll show you an example of optical biosensing, but also then we'll see some electrical biosensors based on graphene. So first, with the optical detection of based on graphene, we have been working with quenching of the fluorescence and very interesting principle, operation principle, used very much in bioanalytical chemistry. So if you have a donor and acceptor for this quenching to occur, the distance is very, very important. Indeed, it is reported to be around 10 nanometer if you work with organic molecules, dyes involved in such kind of measurements. But in graphene, this is reported to be even higher, 30 nanometer. So with this in mind, we compared first the quenching capability, for example, toward the cadmium selenide quantum dot. So this is a suspension of cadmium selenide, nicely giving some photoluminescence of open excitation. And you see here a total quenching, for example, if we use graphene oxide flakes in comparison to nanofibers, nanotubes, or graphite. So almost 90% quenching capability offered by graphene oxide suspension. With this in mind, we designed a very simple quenching-based operation principle for a biosensor to detect the bacteria. And here you see these bacteria, the sample that contains bacteria. You see the quantum dots connected with antibodies are recognizing, interacting with these bacteria. And due to some electrostatic forces, the graphene oxide flakes are interacting with bacteria also in the surface of these bacteria. So the distance between the graphene oxide and the graphene and quantum dots is rather large, because bacteria are of around 2-3 micrometer size. But in the case of the sample that does not contain bacteria, the graphene oxide are almost approaching the quantum dot. So the sample that contains bacteria has already the fluorescence, so the fluorescence is on, and it turns off when the sample does not contain bacteria. So we call this a digital-like response in comparison to analog-like response you have if you do not have this configuration of the detection, so using graphene oxide. So this operation principle is very interesting, very simple, and based on this, we built this lateral flow using graphene oxide. Here are all the components we put onto the paper, and there is a simple video showing the operation principle. So I'll show you how this is working. So we prepare the paper. We are cutting here with a guillotine. Now we are using a laser to cut it better. This happened more than 10 years ago. But just to see the operation principle, so we introduce cadmium selenide quantum dots onto the paper. You will see after exciting with UV visible, you'll see the nice photoluminescence coming from cadmium selenide quantum dots. So excitation now, and you see the nice color coming from the cadmium selenide quantum dots. Now we are introducing graphene oxide suspension. So as I said, due to the capillary forces, this suspension is running across the paper, interacting with the cadmium selenide quantum dots. So the quenching is occurring. And you can imagine that this quenching derived by right antibodies is going to give changes of the color that in turn are correlated with the analyte you want to detect. So after doing the proper correlations, we were able to detect bacteria with this very simple platform. Also, we have been working with nanopaper. Probably you know this is a very interesting platform. It's produced by a special bacteria. And the uniqueness of this platform is that this bacteria allows the formation of nano-sized fibers. So we have been integrating into this nanopaper different kind of quantum dots, either silver or gold nanoparticles. You see here in front of the windows of our institute. So this without nanoparticles, and these with silver and gold nanoparticles. So the nice thing here, as I said before, as in the case of pH paper, if you immerse this paper, you put this in contact with something that you want to detect. For example, we did some simple experiments with cyanide, and given the fact that cyanide can corrode the nanoparticles, for example, the gold nanoparticles, we see the changes of the plasmonics, and we correlate this plasmonic change with the concentration of the cyanide. Of course, this cannot be still selective, because if you have some compounds that can interact and change the nanoparticles, you do not know what is the cause of these changes. So then we correlate this with antibodies. So the same operation principle, but now derived by antibodies. And we use the same operation principle to detect some bacteria. So we did the comparison and control of the different other bacteria, and we found out that it was a very simple device that can show with the same operation principle, just dipping and changing, checking the change of the color to detect bacteria in water. Let me show now you some electrical devices. So in this case, we are not measuring light, but electricity. So, and the first example is related to cancer. So this is a very, very interesting area of application. You know, cancer diagnostics is still a hot topic. The numbers reported are really alarming about the cases, and the importance of diagnostics is also there. We have been working with very simple devices, so with screen printed devices for two scenarios, important scenarios in cancer. The first one is the detection of fixed cancer cells, and the second one is the detection of circulating tumor cells, so those cancer cells that escape the bloodstream. So the first case is the fixed cancer cells. So we put the cancer cells on top of these electrodes and used gold nanoparticles connected with antibodies that recognize these cancer cells. Of course, we did some control experiments with cancer cells that do not express some proteins here, as you can see in this part. So we took advantages of hydrogen evolution reaction. Probably you know that this reaction is very much promoted by the presence of nanoparticles, gold nanoparticles. So we are able to measure the hydrogen evolution reaction and correlate this with the presence, absence of cancer cells. So more hydrogen evolution we have, more cancer cells we have. So in a kind of measuring the quantity of these cancer cells, so their presence, for example, onto these electrodes, with interest for some clinical studies. But of course, not reaching the detection limits that we want for cancer cells. We try to push these improvements toward reaching lower detection limits. And as you can see here, we used some magnetic beads to capture the cancer cells. So this is magnetic beads, that's violet, is a fake color. And of the same here, we have the interaction through antibodies. So the magnetic beads with antibodies in capturing the cancer cell, that in turn is decorated with some gold nanoparticles connected through some other antibodies. Again, hydrogen evolution reaction captured these conjugate with some magnet underneath the electrode, and we are able to measure some correlation between the current and the number of cancer cells. But still, the limit of detection was not that useful for early detection of cancer, because usually for such kind of application, you need to detect probably one cancer cell per 5 milliliter of sample, which is really very, very challenging. So now we are working a lot, as I said, with inkjet printing, and here is one of our first examples in which we call this plug, print, and play inkjet printing, using impedance as a detection method and connection with a smartphone. So after doing some simulation about the electrode, fabrication, of course, of the sensors, after using some wax coating and laser etching, and then some immobilization of with some compound to connect afterwards aptamers. So this was done because in this case we have a direct detection. It's a label-free format based on the impedance. Connected this with a smartphone. So this is also a simple program that allowed us to directly measure the impedance and correlate this with the concentration of the biomarker we wanted to detect. So it was NGAL that is related to kidney infection in the case of with interest for liver cirrhosis. So this technology indeed requests the quality, a good quality of the electrode, and this is why we have been working a lot on the improvement of the inkjet printing technology using nanoparticle-based inks, and this is also a patent we applied in which we wanted to achieve the direct sintering of nanoparticles once you imprint this onto any kind of surface. So by using this patented technology, we are able to sinter the gold nanoparticles directly. So we achieved direct contact and sintering of these nanoparticles. So we achieve a very high conductivity, which is very, very important, as you can see also from these cyclic voltammetries for our applications. So based on this technology, we also did some other applications. Here is the case of the detection of SARS-CoV-2 genes using two different redox reporters, ferrocene and methylene blue, using two different capture probes in the same sensor, and building a very interesting sensor that is connected with antenna to offer this for point-of-care applications. We are able to detect simultaneously the two genes related to this SARS-CoV-2, as you can see here, thanks to the use of the two different reporters, ferrocene and methylene blue. So here are some details of the device that is connected, as I said, with antenna, and the program, small program, little program with smartphone that is doing the reading with interest for point-of-care applications. Also, we have moved this technology, also inkjet printing for printing some different pillars. So with interest for ionic conductivity, which is very, very interesting. So these microneedles we build with inkjet printing are with interest, and we show here that we can use these for plant monitoring control, some simple measurements of ionic conductivity, which is with interest because these are used as nutrients in plants, and we are moving toward application probably in a future project with interest for agriculture. So just to say that this inkjet printing can also print with different architectures, configurations with interest for different applications. And also, as I mentioned, graphene for us is one of the most important areas of research. We stamp graphene, graphene oxide suspension after filtering. We can stamp to any kind of surface using some wax printed membrane. So we control, of course, the quality of the stamping, the printing width, and of course, resistance, thickness. And after having this control, we are able to print to any kind of surface. This is just a touch-sensitive device using this stamped graphene, but we can print onto different substrates, PET, textile, paper, adhesive films, and more. I'll show you also this example in which we are moving now toward combining this stamping of graphene with laser scribing. So this is very, very interesting. So we start from graphene oxide, which is not conductive, to reduce graphene oxide, and afterwards using even some precursors of metallic particles, we are able, and even some transition metal dechalcogenides, we are able to produce different kind of substrates with different configurations, composites, mixture of graphene with different kind of nanomaterials, with interest for different applications, because we are trying to get synergies between graphene or other 2D materials with nanomaterials, so as to anchor, for example, receptors, or to use these for energy applications. Here is a little bit more what happened when we apply laser scribing, so combination of this stamping with laser scribing. Here are some more details of how it works. Let me skip this. After, of course, controlling these surfaces stamped by laser-reduced graphene oxide, we are able to use these sensors for different applications. I'll show you in some examples afterwards. This is the first one. We applied this graphene, laser-scribed graphene for cancer biomarker detection. using, in this case, graphene as signal transducer in capacitive biosensing. Using antibodies, we are able to get some very nice detection limits with interest for this CA19 biomarker with interest for cancer detection. Also, we reported recently heavy metal detection. This is still a very, very important area of research because detection of heavy metals overall at low levels of concentration is problematic because of the interferences between the different heavy metals. So we are able to use this technology, the same laser scribing based graphene patterning using these sensors for heavy metal detection. You see here the response, for example, toward different heavy metals, cadmium, lead, copper, and some responses, calibration curves for the different metals with interest for water monitoring. So we are trying also to transfer this technology and connect this with lateral flow. So again, trying to get synergies between lateral flow and electrochemical detection. And you can see here a lateral flow device in which we are patterning graphene and using these as electrodes to detect different compounds, combining the same as we did, for example, and here is the first example in which we use this alkaline phosphatase-based system, so enzymatic sensor, to do some simple proof of concept applications. So now the last examples related to wearable devices. So this is the first one for copper. Copper is a very interesting analyte for diagnostics, with interest for diagnostics. So there are a lot of several diseases that are based and very much related with copper ions. So we built a simple device for copper. This is based on 3 electrode system using electrochemical stripping analysis. So this is a very, very powerful technique for heavy metal detection. So we can detect heavy metals, for example, in this case, copper in sweat. We did also some simple microfluidics control to see that we are able to control the sweat underneath, so the interface between the skin and the sensor. Did some electronics for this because we wanted to communicate the smartphone with this sensor and to get some very nice results for copper. And the final example is this one, in which, in cooperation with our partner at ICN2, we used a muzzle-inspired bioadhesive membrane, in which we stamped our sensor, in this case for some temperature measurements. And you can see here in this video also a little bit more about the process, how it works. How it works. So just to have a feeling about this kind of sensor. So first we print the antenna. So we are printing here with a silver-based paste is some antenna. So this is for the communication. As I said, the sensor that is a wearable will communicate, will take the energy from the smartphone, and the sensor, after measurings, we give the signal back to the smartphone. So the antenna here role is very important. So we control this sensor that is coupled with the antenna first to see that the communication is fine. So this is the control now, and afterwards you will see the communication and releasing of this membrane to the hand. So the membrane is now releasing. This is done in water, which is very important also for such kind of applications. Afterwards, again, checking the communication with the NFCs, and you'll see later the transference of this membrane, muzzle-inspired bioadhesive membrane, to the hand. So this is now the transfer of the sensor all together. So NFC and the sensor, and afterwards you'll see again the control of the communication with the smartphone. So this is what is happening, and we are trying to move these toward other applications, trying to connect with different kind of receptors. Finally, I wanted to very fast go through the different projects we are working for such kind of applications. So the first project is the one that we ended this year. So trying to transfer this expertise in nanosensors for environmental monitoring to other countries. Indeed, this is a cooperation project with our center, a center in the Czech Republic with University of Tirana. And I'm happy that professors are coming in Tirana in this conference. So we have been working since 4 years almost with this project for contaminants detection in water. And also another big project we have, a European project, is related to neurodegenerative disease, in which we are trying to apply these technologies for some biomarkers with interest for Alzheimer's disease in cooperation with other partners. So combining microfluidics, electrophoresis probably with electrochemical detection using graphene-based sensors. Also another important project with one of the most important cancer hospitals in Barcelona for cancers for infantile cancers, in which we are working for neuroblastoma immunotherapy efficiency, using these sensors to follow up the efficiency of therapy of this cancer using a drug that is called naxitamab, and using these sensors by using also impedance spectroscopy to measure the efficiency of this specific therapy. Also another project with another important hospital in Barcelona, Vall d'Hebron. We are working in development of a non-invasive in vitro diagnostic for endometrial cancer screening on high-risk population using inkjet printed, as I mentioned before, combine this with magnetic beads separation, and trying to detect these directly onto some biological fluids together with other partners, as you can see here, and even spin-off companies to bring this technology to the market. Also, as I mentioned, we also are working, have a lot of interest in defense. Recently, you have been awarded with this important project funded by ministries of defense in Europe to develop sensors for bacterial and biological infections that can be used by soldiers during the need. So they can use these sensors based on lateral flow to detect, and also for prevention and prophylaxis and treatment of these kind of infections. So here are some more details about our partners. So working also with partners, experts in receptors, that is very, very important for such kind of development, and also the right laboratories that have the right facilities to work with such kind of disease and infections. Also another important project, the last one I think, is eMERGE, in which we worked during 5 years to develop advanced electronic platforms, flexible platforms for sensing, but also for energy, using our technologies, printing technologies with interest for different applications. So it was a big project with a lot of partners to improve the quality of flexible electronics with interest for different areas. So here are some more details about the partners. And this is another project, MicroPredict, I mentioned before, also for liver cirrhosis-based measurements. We have been recently doing some validation, and one of my collaborators was in Germany and trying to apply our sensors in real clinical settings with interest for this kind of disease. In collaboration, we see here a lot of partners in clinical area, but also in bioanalytical applications. Know for Nano, also another collaborative projects to bring the technologies to other countries, in this case in Serbia, in collaboration with our partners, other partners in Italy, for biosensors for bacterial detections. You see here many partners from the region working together for this kind of application. So this is all. I wish that I gave you a flavor of the different technologies we are working in Barcelona for this kind of sustainable devices for different diagnostic applications with interest for different areas. And if you want to learn more, we wrote these reviews for different kind of biosensors using different kind of nanomaterials, including theranostics, electrical or optical detection, paper-based sensors for different applications, as well as advanced diagnostic devices, including vaccines I couldn't show here, and we are still working and planning future projects on this area, trying to get advantages of these materials for biosensors. So, and of course, I'd like to thank all our partners, sponsors, collaborators. We are very happy that we have also starting a collaboration with your center. But overall, I would like to thank all my collaborators, my group. We have done all this work and hopefully we'll have collaborators from this center. So this is all. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to give you responses. Thank you very much.